Well. Welcome to Dr. Lovely's Couch Cafe. It is your host, Dr. Lovely here. And today we have a very special person that will be chiming in here on us today. And that is Mr. Andrew Andy. You have heard me talk about him so much. Let's welcome Mr. Andy. Mr. Andy.
Shalom.
Yes. You want to tell people a little bit about yourself?
Well, there's not much to be told about me. As you know, I'm a farmer, a fisher, and I'm about the Most High. That's basically what it is, sticking to nature and the principles of it,
Yes.
So.
Well, family, we've had a dialogue and everything, and this week I found out something very critical here. And that critical point was that I had been keeping the Shabbats all wrong. And not because of anything that I might have done wrong, it's because of the Gregorian calendar. And that goes back to the scripture saying that they would think to change times and laws. But the Father had established things, as he said, in the heavens as what? Signs. So he left us with the information that we needed to get back to a place that he had taken away from us. Because even this week I was reading again that he said he would remove everything, all of our heritage, everything that was attached to us. And the only thing that would be left about our heritage would be within us. And that was our bloodline. We lose everything but the blood in our body that'll tie us back to our heritage. And so understanding that they came in and changed times and seasons and laws and established a week. And the interesting thing about it, that people make you think that all civilizations had weeks established, but they actually didn't. So the interesting thing is they establish weekdays. And by establishing weekdays, it will make it difficult for us to really keep the Sabbath in its true essence. And because of that, we sin even in that. So I just keep, I thank God because daily we get a better understanding of what our cultural frame of reference is, and we continue to grow. And he can't discount us for the things that we didn't know and the deceptive things that were told to us. But the thing that takes to heart is our willing heart to make that change. Want to chime on that a little bit, Mr. Andy?
Sure. First, I'm going to touch the part that you mentioned about the spirit. What is, everything that was taken away from us. So even in this culture, everything they talk about is about your mind or your body. You know what I mean? Sensations and, thoughts and feelings. But what they never really talk about is the one that is aware of the sensations in your body, the physical sensations in the body, or the one that is aware of the thoughts in the mind. So this is just for us to understand that there's something there that is beyond our mind and our bodies, right? And that is the spirit within, that is our consciousness. And this is the part that we leave out the most. So even when you get into the Sabbaths, even if the person believes in the Saturday Sabbath, is that what they will experience, I can tell you for sure, you have some days during the week that somewhere in your spirit, you will feel as if you have no energy or no vibes to work or to do anything, because it's that spirit inside that is connecting with the heavens. But because we're not aware of what our bodies are, what our spirit is really revealing to us. Why am I feeling like today I don't want to go to work? Why am I feeling as if I don't want to cook today? You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Why do I feel like I just don't want to spend any money? But we never had that connection to say, okay, let me stop for a moment. Let me take a pause to see what this experience is. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
So yes, So right, regarding what you said about changing times and laws, you see the key point in that is that we never looked at the fact that it says they would think to change time, because the Most High is really telling you that it's only a thought. It cannot come to fruition. They can change our perception of time, but they cannot change time itself, because in order for you to change time, you have to change the movement of the sun, the moon, and the constellations. Yeah. And we know that even the spiritual demon himself does not have the ability to change the, right?
Right.
So once you go back to this knowledge of the sun, the moon, and the stars, then naturally the discerning is in the action itself, right? So you know that, okay, the function of the sun is to declare days, years, season, right? And the moon and the stars, we know they work together, which they'll tell you about nights and the period ending of 7 days, right? And also the months. Yes. But it cannot tell you, okay, today is what day. The moon cannot do that, just like the sun cannot tell you anything about the night.
Yeah.
Right? But they work together. So even though they are the sun, the moon, and the stars, they work together like that, but they're separate in function. For example, the clock on the wall, it has an hour hand, a minute hand, and a second hand. They all work together to tell time, but they have to have separate function, meaning the hour hand cannot tell you what second it is. The second hand cannot tell you what minute it is. And this is how we have to understand the heavens. Yeah. Right? So all of that has been changed, tampered with, and then we believe it to be true.
Yeah.
You know?
It goes back to that.
Right.
You know, I was telling my father, we were having another dialogue yesterday. I enjoy talking to my dad so much. I was telling him, you know, that dysfunctional thing about us as a people, and I'm going to go back to the Stockholm Syndrome aspect of what I keep saying, is because we trusted information passed down to us by the people who captivated us and forced indoctrination. I was doing some studies last night on, you know, I'm still working on my America is Israel thing, and it was talking about certain words and phrases in the time frame, right? And this is why they change words so much, because they try to take away the meaning and essence of what things meant in a particular time versus what it means now. And to gain understanding, then this is why I really focus on etymology, because it will give you the time frame in which that word meant what it meant. So when the establishment of this country took place, there were certain words like I believe native, right? And a native was, it had a particular definition. And I was writing down these definitions because it was really important for you to get that understanding, right? So, for example, the word native is a person in bondage, one born a serf or a valen. So when you think about during the 1500s when they were beginning to conquer this nation, that word native was not something in which we have. So when you call a person a Native American, it's like saying you're an American slave.
Right.
So, you know, that essence. So, and then it gives you the term serf. So you got to look at serf. It's a servant, right? Or a slave.
Right. That's a very important thing, because when you go back to even with Eve, because what you're mentioning right now is the witchcraft that is in the language itself. And when you go back to that witchcraft, the very first experience of witchcraft in the scriptures is when Eve was learning another culture from what Adam taught her.
Ooh,
right? And
nice.
that's where the witchcraft is. So, you know, all of that ties in together, because once you're stepping outside of your language, anyone can manipulate you. And this is why you see even us, we don't really speak English. We use English words, but the language is compromised, is made up of many different aspects. Like you have the morphology, the syntax, and, you know, the phonetics of the language and so forth. Right? So they can always manipulate us. This is why even when we talk, we don't pronounce the word fully. Right? This is why we say in Jamaica we talk patois, or other places, even the Africans, they don't pronounce the word fully like a European. That's their language. That's their way of speaking.
This is true.
Right? Right. So once you get into a person's language, you understand everything about their culture. Like here in Jamaica right now, the Chinese that are here, they understand everything in patois. We cannot speak any form of codes that they don't understand. But like the Europeans, a lot of Europeans are not so deep into the patois, so they don't understand our culture like the Chinese do.
Yeah.
So you cannot separate your language from your culture, from your identity.
Yeah.
All three of them are one.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, they understood that, which is why they removed all aspects of who we were. And even though traces of the culture survive, right? But you can't tell what those traces of the culture is because of, over time, that indoctrination takes root and they understand how it works. That's why I loved when I studied psychology, they tell you about how indoctrination works. Not only that, it tells you how they take you from your one descendant, and by the third descendant, they've completely eradicated their culture from them. In the American, that only in America that happens in America, right? So that by the third descendant, we've got them. They're fully indoctrinated.
Right, you have the perfect example. You've seen the movie Roots with Kunta Kinte. He came from Africa, so he knew the African culture. His daughter was born here in the Americas. She just got a little portion from what Kunta Kinte taught her. Yeah. Right? Now when Izzy has her son, this son know nothing about Kunta Kinte. He never seen the African culture. And this reminds me so much of Psalms when David was saying, by the rivers of Babylon, where we sat down, we wept when we remember Zion, because the slaves, the Hebrews that came over here on cargo slave ships, they remember their history back in Africa. You get what I'm saying? But the ones that back in Israel and so forth, but the ones that were born in here, it was very different. They just had a portion. But by the time it went down to the third and fourth generation, we have no remembrance of Israel. We had no remembrance of our homeland. We had no remembrance of our language. And that is the key part of our identity. Right? Because look at all the black people today with all the different groups that they're forming, saying their consciousness, right? At the end of the day, they're still tying back to the English language. So even if they're going back to a history, it's still not doing enough for them, because we have to get... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's true. Yeah.
Right, because your real identity is in your language. So whether you call yourself an Egyptian, you have to start telling me about your Egyptian language, because your identity is embedded in the language.
Yeah. It's
right.
But it's still the same, even though they didn't even come on slave ships. They infiltrated this land, and there were natives here. And it still was the same. They took their children, indoctrinated their children in their own school system. They had things established so that they could teach their children their religious beliefs. It's funny how, like I said, I was doing studies, and they had this thing called the Native American Party. They weren't Native American, because they were talking about anyone who wasn't a Protestant could not be attached to it. So surely they weren't natives, because natives weren't Protestants.
Right.
So when those are the aspects when we're studying, right? Because you look at something, but Native Americans had a party. Well, no, they didn't, because they weren't Protestants. So you're looking at the term, it seems to me that they were already establishing a history, right? To swing towards the future.
Right. And the school system was very convenient for that agenda, because it goes back to they nationalize and demoralize the people, So when you go through 18 years of schooling with the same thing repeating over and over in your head, by the time you get to 20, it's hard to even go back to say, the Bible says this, or the Bible says that. You're already... You know what I mean? It's going to take at least another 20 years to get back all of that out of your system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is true.
So the same thing that they did through war, but then when they sent the knights and all of those people to enslave blacks across the world, we know from Pope Innocente and the Holy Roman Empire, that's what they did back then. But they did it through physicality, war and conquering, But no, it's not physical like that. We are participating in it. What we are doing now, sending our children to their school and all of that, and not trying to purge out their minds from the European knowledge, what they learned in the school system. They used to do that. They used to do that through wars, but now we are freely sending our children to their institutions, and the cycle is continuing, right? How many of us check our children's book, like doing it, like after they come from school, to say, okay, your child says, oh, the moon gets the light from the sun. No, you go and show them in the Bible that, hey, the sun has its own light, the moon is independent of her own light.
And you know this, and you can tell by the just the sheer magnitude of the distance between the two.
And not only that, there's even logics you can use to get to the truth. Because think about it, when you know the phases of the moon, after 14 days after the full moon, it goes completely black, right? Now, if the moon was getting its light from the sun, then the 3 days, the 3 nights that the moon is absent light, why it doesn't get its light from the sun, and the sun is still shining? So that puts us into that theory right there, So the moon is independent. But what the point of this was to say that we still, whatever our children learn throughout the schooling, in the school, we have to go back and purge out and make a distinction between the profane and the unprofane. Right? So it's our duty to do that. But again, it goes back to us as parenting too, as parents too, because that plays a lot, A lot of us really don't want to spend time with our children. We don't have the time.
Yeah, because we're busy working and trying to pay bills and everything, and we don't focus in on the fact that they're being indoctrinated, nor connecting and find out who their friends are and the people they're being influenced by as well.
Right. So, we see a lot of that in COVID, like COVID, where a lot of people had to be home with their children or their husband or their wife. We see how it was in the homes. Well, here, or the divorce rates went up, everything, a lot of families were destroyed. So many things happened just to be around, because it's just an illusion going to work as if everything is okay. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
But being around the family for a whole month, for 6 months, trust me.
It was longer than that. It was like a whole year or so they was trapped in the house with folks.
Exactly. So you can imagine how many families were destroyed, really, because they had to accept the reality. Going to work every day was just the illusion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's funny. Right. I had my students were telling me how close they were getting with their parents because of it. So for some kids, it was really good for them because they had a chance to really get to, have dialogues with their parents that they probably would have never done before. So I could see the older generation probably having a better connection to their parents than they probably would have if it had not transpired. But we're going to move forward. And I normally do a segment when I talk about some of the things that you posted. So one of the things that kind of caught my attention, I felt like I should share with the readers this week, was once they have a deep-rooted belief that they don't deserve it, once you start doing it for them, then that deed becomes a weapon against you. When they can't see their own beliefs as their own enemy, you become their foe. And I know that you posted this due to our conversation this week about about the tete-a-tete I had with my significant other. I thought that was a most powerful statement that you had posted, because sometimes people don't recognize that they are their beliefs in certain things become a target in the mind. And I tackled on that, and I had read the poem that I was constructing to my best friend last night because she's experiencing something, and you had that one, and I said that I needed to add a little aspect to that, so I'm going to read to you what I wrote so that we can tie them both in, right? And the statement, I had people in which you love sow seeds with words, and their actions are the fruits of the seed sown, meaning the word spoken in harshness and negativity brings forth fruit by the actions that perpetuate the declaration unto you. And that statement I made that brought us that understanding was when someone tells you that, like the situation was, he said that don't nobody care, or, I'm in this by myself. And I'm like, how can you say that? And then in my mind, I'm saying he does say this, and his actions are, I'm separated from his life. I'm not in it. I'm completely removed, far from his life. So when you make the statements such as that, and then your actions show it, then you can't be upset with me when I say something in regards to it, and you're telling me I'm putting myself in that place. Well, I am in there, right? Because you've separated me from your life. So it's impossible for me not to think what I'm saying or what I'm seeing, because your actions tell me exactly what I'm saying. So that's when you came in with your statement. And I thought that was it. So I want you to, talk a little bit about that, and that way we can get some understanding as to the way you view it.
All right. When you're dealing with people that have wounds, right? It's just like a child, when the parents is doing they're doing certain things, and the child is hurt over and over, but they don't have the ability to speak up. They never express how they feel. They never try to understand their feeling because the parents never sat down with them to let them process it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the same now after a process of time. When you just hold things, you naturally, a fixed concept is formed in the unconscious, and that concept about yourself, not even the person is not aware of what the concept is. The only time he's gonna know is when he's experiencing intimacy again.
Yeah.
Right? And intimacy is going to resurface all of the dormant parts of the personality, and this is when these different parts of the personality comes forth. So this is why you will never know a person until you start seeing different aspects of the personality.
Yeah.
Because naturally, you're just going to see what they want you to see, right? Because something has to come up subconsciously or unconsciously. Mm-hmm. And this is why intimacy is necessary. Now, when the person forms a fixed concept that, oh, I don't deserve to be loved, or I'm not lovable, or stuff like that, when you come and start to shower that person with love, it is contrary to what they want to feel or they think they should be feeling. They think, no, this is too good for them, they're not worthy of it. So it is like you're piercing them with a sword.
Mm-hmm.
So now they are feeling all of the resurfacing pain and hurt, but they're not understanding the internal aspect. So what they're seeing is that you have your hand on the handle of the sword. So they think that you are the one actually hurting them, not realizing it's just something from the unconscious is just coming back to consciousness, something that they have buried for ever so long.
Mm-hmm. It's also when you haven't experienced authentic love, right? And when it comes to being melanated and everything, we often experience love that is circumstantial. And I was having this dialogue with my best friend last night because she was, talking about her epiphany about where her pain comes from when it comes to men. And she had to resurface so much of why she was angry and acting out. And my statement was to her always, it begins with her father, because her father left her. And the thing that she said, and I don't want to go into all the detail of what was going on in her life at the time, but she was experiencing such a hardship, and she called her father to let him know the things that was happening to her that was so detrimental that she ran away from home. And he told her, I can't, because you look too much like your mother. That, to me, meaning his hurt and pain and anger towards her mother was greater than the pain and frustration that his own child was experiencing, and he rejected her at the most critical point in her life. Therefore, I could understand why her hatred began rooted in men. And then from there, you then have unfruitful relationship after unfruitful relationship. Then you begin to say, my statement to her was, did you feel as if this is what you deserved because your own father rejected you? So when we experience rejection, most of the time we don't feel like we should be loved, because me and her friend, like I told her last night, I said, is that the reason why you fought so hard, against our relationship? I said, because like it took probably about 3 years for me to really get close with her. And every time we got close, it's kind of the same way I feel about my relationship with him. Every time we get close, he pushed me away. It was the same thing for her.
Right, because again, when we talk about intimacy, most people refer to that as sex, but intimacy is when you get to really see into that person, right? So when you have a close friend, or even if it's a partner, and the person starts knowing too much about you, you feel vulnerable, and that's what the whole point of the intimacy is. It puts you in a vulnerable situation, and then that fear of being hurt again, right? So once there is a fear, what's naturally going to happen, just like with your situation, right? You are not a threat to your partner, but because the brain is detecting a fear, naturally you become a threat, because fear and threat works, like that. So what happens is now that a relationship with you as a person who is healed or is in the process of healing and understanding everything is going to be difficult for him. So one, he's either going to create a codependent relationship with you, meaning he's going to find more problems to deflect him from his own internal problems, or he's going to run in the opposite direction because of the fear. And this is why people end up in relationships that are not worthy, or they don't have any values or anything to elevate themselves, because in that way they don't have to see their own dirt. You know what I mean?
You don't have to recognize you need healing.
Right.
And you can, it's easy to deflect and not have to worry about dealing with those things. But at the end of the day, you have to establish in yourself, are you worthy of what has been given to you? It's like my statement all the time. When you ask God for something, right? You say, God, please bring me this, that, and the other, and I need this type of mate, and he gives it to you. You have to be ready for what comes up with that. And are you willing or strong enough to face whatever that means? To me, it makes me understand that they're not strong. Some people say, I'm strong, I'm not, I'm tough. But they're really not tough. And the reason why they are not is because soon as something comes up, they run. Now, I'm going to tell you this, and this could be the issue for him, is I because I've dealt with a lot of frustration in my last relationship, I set a standard as to what I wanted to adhere to in my relationships, and it always felt like he wasn't sincere, or he wasn't really wanting the serious relationship he said he wanted when we started. So my statement to him had always been, look, I can see you not really wanting to be in a relationship, and that's the way it's been. I felt that way. I can see you don't really want to be in this relationship, so I don't mind being your friend. We can be friends. We don't have to date. I'm okay with that. But if you can't give me the same dedicatedness that I'm giving you, then why are we doing this? And that's why it's always been a frustration for me, is the fact that, look, you said you wanted a serious relationship, but this is not what you're giving me. So I don't understand why you want to waste my time or yours in cultivating something that you're not willing to do the work in.
Okay. The thing about that now is that, as we're talking about unconscious things and conscious things, like you might be in a position where you can consciously say, this is what I want, this is the type of relationship I want, and I'm not going to settle for anything other than my what the values, my principles and beliefs are, right? But a person who is not aware of their own wounds, in theory, they want a relationship. That is in theory, right? But in practicality, there are dormant part of their personalities that are saying otherwise, and this is where an internal battle is taking place. So as soon as they get involved with someone and it starts to get more serious, or it, let me put it this way, you know, like when a person has a lot of walls up, but then you just come in their life, and then boom, it's like
and
you jump
tearing them all down. Yeah.
Right. Then they're not prepared for that. So what happens is something deeper is happening on an emotional level that they themselves cannot understand, because they never see this coming, because the walls, they wonder, oh, where did my walls go? Right? And then they recognize that they're a little bit in too deep now. So the only thing is for them to do is to run. So when you're getting too close, they push you away. But when you're going too far, they pull you back in. So you're kind of like in a push-pull. So now you're locked in a cage. But the only person that can let you out of that cage, they are the ones with the key. You understand? So you must not come too close, but you must not go too far. And this is where you walk on eggshells in the relationship.
Yes.
You walk on hot balls, right?
Yes, but that takes you away from yourself, right? Because that's exactly what you're doing. You're diminishing what you need and what you're asking for. And as the time goes, the less of you is there, and you're operating in crisis mode, right? Because that's pretty much what you're dealing with. And at the end of the day, it comes to a point where, see, and I'm the type of person that I prefer to walk away than hate someone, right? Or be malicious or mean. So it's easier for me to just cut and let go, because at the end of the day, it'll get to the point where there's going to be animosity or disflavoringness in it. But let's get to our topic, because I think it topples right into the topic, because it's very common for men to not express, right, their feelings in essence. And I can't fault him for this, because he told me he had a hard time expressing what he felt. But it gets to a point where you have to learn to express it, because he doesn't have a problem with expressing how he feels when he's mad. Yeah. So you can express it, but at the end of the day, it's best for freeing oneself as well as yours. But a lot of men don't like confrontation.
To add to that, what I believe is that is the way we look at certain things. Like for me, it goes back to vulnerability, because a man will not have any problem to express anger, because it does not reflect vulnerability in that sense. But if they should say, I really love this woman, and I'm so for this woman, they feel more vulnerable. And just like I'm talking about jealousy, a man will not be so upfront to say, oh, I'm aware of this sense, this feeling of jealousy when it comes on to this woman. I've never experienced this with the other woman I've been with before. You know what I mean? So what is this beautiful feeling that seems as if I'm so jealous to understand? But we were never taught to be okay with our vulnerability and to see the power, because you mentioned earlier about a man being tough or a person being tough. You cannot be tough. Whatever definition you have for the word tough, you cannot be tough until you are established in your vulnerability. Or otherwise it weakens you.
But it's because we've been taught that vulnerability means weakness.
No, vulnerability is a superpower. It depends.
No,
on
I
how
said you've been taught that. Yeah, that it means you're weak, but it really isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you understand your own vulnerability, you can now protect yourself, right? If you know that, okay, you are not so much of a good swimmer, so but guess what? In the pool, you can handle yourself, but in the sea where all the current and so forth, you cannot. Yeah. So you can know exactly. You understand what I'm saying? And then you can also be confident in something. Confident doesn't mean that you are good at everything, but confidence is that you know your strength and you know your weakness. Therefore, you're established in whatever you are. You're not trying to compare with anyone. You're not trying to be as good as this person in that. You're just who you are. You understand?
Yeah, it goes back to comfortability again, because in the beginning it's going to be hard. But once you take the step, right, in that direction, the first step is the beginning. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And I understand what it's like not being able to express yourself when it comes to telling people how you feel, because that was me. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I held it in so much, and I was hurting so bad that I kept those things inside, that it was killing me. And when I finally did it, everybody was so angry at me because I was able to express it, but they felt as if I was being, like something was wrong with me. Now, you've changed. Yes, I have. But I didn't change to hurt you. I just needed to say what I'm feeling. And if then now we got a problem, because I speak in what I'm saying. But you have to be able to sit with your feelings in the midst of whatever it is, even if it hurts someone. Yeah, it's your truth. If the person can't sit in their feelings while they're telling it to you, then you never free yourself. Yeah, I know, and I tell that to my kids now. Like, just tell me. I know I might be mad or hurt, but I got to work through the process of those feelings. But I still rather you say it to me. Don't protect me because you feel like I'm going to be hurt or sad. Just go ahead and tell me what you need to say.
Right. And the reason why what you mention about a person to sit with their feelings, sit in that experience, it goes back to also forgiveness, because a lot of people will say in theory that they forgive you or they forgive that person, right? Mm-hmm. Even if they tell you about something 10 years ago, but they never understood why, whenever they're talking about the same experience, they are reliving it in terms of the sensation and the feelings and so forth. It's because you never forgave yourself of the experience. It's not about forgiving the other person or the other person forgiving you. It's about you forgiving yourself. You forgiving the experience. Mm-hmm. Right. You have to be healed from the wound for you to forgive.
This is true.
Right. And this is why you see every time the thought comes back, if you're reminded of it through a movie, through a song, it's going to bring back that same experience. Mm-hmm. This is natural, right? So it just means that you need to go back to that place and forgive in that place. And this is where meditation is necessary, you understand?
Yeah.
Right. So you have to go to the experience, then you have to go make intercession with your divine principles to see what the scriptures say about that experience, and then you keep doing it over. And the more frequent you do it, is the more that your spirit is going to override what you feel. So it's like you're emptying, you're pouring out your emotions into your spirit, because the spirit is so vast. It can take all of your emotions, and this is what people never really learn to do. You don't have to go and express to another physical person. I mean, that's optional. But if you're not pouring it out into the Most High on His altar, if you're not giving it up on His altar, if you're not sacrificing those thoughts and emotions on His altar, then what are you really giving up to the Most High? Yeah. You are really fighting your own battles, right? So this is why meditation is vital, and I don't understand why a lot of these communities, they talk about fast and pray, but they never really get into the depths of meditation. Well, and this is why, again, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This is why, again, when we can tell a person, hey, okay, you should do this and do that, but when that same experience comes to us, we're doing the same thing that the other person did. Because in the experience is the moment that you have to go to your divine principles.
Yeah.
To say, the law says, don't a soft answer turneth away wrath. So even if a person come and be rude to you, mm-hmm. naturally the impulse is for you to be rude to the person.
Yeah.
But then you're gonna go to your divine principle in the experience to say, a soft answer turneth away wrath.
Yes.
So you just walk away.
Yes.
Right? And this is what we call meditation. In the experience itself, you don't do something and then go back and regret it. You deal with it
in the midst of it all. Yeah.
Exactly.
It goes back to the inability to self-reflect, right? And it tells you, let a man examine himself daily, right? And if you're examining yourself as situations are going on, right? And you're reflecting, because a lot of times even when I'm having arguments, I'm dealing with this in a mental state of mind. And I'm trying to make sure I'm using the correct terminology, or I'm handling it in the way I should. And most of the time, when it gets to a point where it's heated and I'm like, I might say something out of line, I'm like, look, hey, I'm not going to do this right now. I can't. That goes back to self-reflection. It goes back to examining oneself. So as you're having a dialogue, and after the incident, you understand, I'm still dissecting and trying to get an understanding of where I could have changed something, or where I should have, made a difference in that place. But see, the problem is, and I think the hardest part for brothers is that aspect of self-reflection and your ability to look at someone else's pain. Because see, we operate from selfishness, but you have to be able to say, wow, I caused that pain. And what I need to do to correct the pain that I've caused, or the frustrations that's going on in this person's life. Am I looking at this thing from a non-selfish way? And I think about that part, right? We as a people, we focus on what our needs and desires are. And that is why it is in that perspective. We're focused on what we need and what's happening in my life at this point. And that was a statement, and I'll bring you into that. His statement where we were going to this dialogue, because I'm just going to use it as an example, that something was happening in his world. And I said, well, we're both dealing with a hardship. And my statement to you is, in order for us both to financially grow, if we come together and merge our finances, then we could better go or grow financially. And his statement was, I'm not trying to stay with anybody. And this is about him and his needs. And I said, even I had these things going on. He's like, well, you're talking about what's happening with you, and this is what's going on in my life. And to me, that's saying that your problems are greater than mine. And it doesn't matter whatever's happening in your world. My world trumps that. And it goes back to my statement again of you being by yourself, and this is about what you need. And I'm by myself and everything that's happening to me. And I said, it's not just happening to you. Because what happens to you is happening to me. And it goes back to your ability to separate yourself and the fact that you are alone because you choose to be in this thing by yourself. See that?
Right. Okay, you see, one of the main things when you deal with relationships, one of the main things is that we have to go back to Adam and Eve when he said, therefore shall a man leave father and mother and cleave to his wife. We skip out this part, this principle when it comes down to relationship, because what some people don't realize is that once you're living in the home or around your family, they have an influence on your relationship. And this is why you see a lot of people don't want to make that move to go to the next person, because then it's going to come with a responsibility. Mm-hmm. And it's going to come, right, you're going to have to stand on your own, knowing that, guess what, even if we fall upon hard times, we're going to have to get through it together. Or even if the Most High blesses us, both of us are going to enjoy that kingdom together. Yeah. Right? We still have that fear. So this is why we do things based upon fear. We rather stick to our jobs, pay $1,000 per month for rent and all of this, rather than just coming together and take out a mortgage and say, this is what we're going to do. Because our minds are fixated on the end result that, oh, she's going to betray me or he's going to betray me. There's a loud truck passing. You know what I mean? So we still have a fixed concept about the opposite gender, and this belief causes this resistance to not make us come together to be one, as the scripture says, be one flesh, twain. You know what I mean?
But it's very common for men to do it than women.
It's very what?
It's more common for a man to stick to this particular principle than a woman is.
Of leaving father and mother?
Mm-hmm. Not wanting to merge in relationships in order to gain a better financial footing, but because seriously, gas prices are high, everything is expensive, and I look at it from the perspective of financial growth. But I've been saying this to him for over 3 years, and he still walks in the same principle. Like I just let it go. But the thing about it is, it gets harder for me to assist him in his financial endeavors because he needs help too. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I can't keep helping because everything is getting tight around here. And at the end of the day, if we can't work together, then like, what are we doing?
This is why this is where wisdom comes in, because I'm just going to give you my personal experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Where Sonia lives, she lives, well, how can I say? Okay, where she lives and work, right, is like 2 hours driving, basically, 1.5 hours, right? Now, where I stay, not where I live, but where I stay where I can take care of the farming, the cattle, the goats, and so forth, right? The plants and everything. I am not staying in my house. I'm staying with my other farmer friends, right? So what I have to do is I have to create a balance that during the week I'm with the farmers, you know what I mean, taking care of the animals and so forth. And on weekends, I spend time with her and my son. It's a decision I have to make. You know what I mean? Because I cannot give up everything, and she's not in a position where she can give up everything, because where she lives, she works 2 hours away, and where she has her business is close to where she lives. So it's hard for us to make that move. And this is why we make that decision, some days here, some days there. You understand? Yeah. And because she passes my home before she reaches to work or so forth, what happens is we have days in the week where she can stop over and, stay over for the night and so forth. And this is because you still have to always create that time for intimacy. It doesn't matter how many businesses you have or what work schedule you have to take that time, even 1 day per week. You understand? So wisdom is always necessary. You know what I mean?
And takes it back.
So it goes back to the man.
Yeah, it takes it back to the same principle, because he prefers to do everything on his own, and that's why I come up with the concept of him wanting to be alone. Like that's where I'm going with this dialogue. Like he wants to be alone. I can't infiltrate into a person's world that doesn't want me in their world, but then you don't want to let me go either. So that's that dialogue here.
Goes back to that push and pull that we were talking about earlier, right? So before getting into a relationship, this is why we have the moral principles, standards, and values, and so forth to guide us. Because before you get into a relationship, you have to have a list of things, boundaries that you know that you are not going to accept. Because once these things are present, then the relationship is not going to be functional.
See, that's not how it started off. It changed.
No, it did not change. That was just originally what it was. You just saw a character before. Because remember, it's only when you start to get deep in the intimacy, that's when you're going to start seeing the deeper wounds, the different the dormant parts of the personality. Mm-hmm. You're not going to see that up front. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. Right. So it's not change the person, change. It's just that the nature is revealing now. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying?
This is true.
Right. So... yeah, so that's really what it is, and like I said, wisdom is necessary, because at the end of the day, if you're helping someone, if you're pouring into a man, whatever you're pouring into him, it has to be beneficial to you at the end of the day. Yeah. You understand? Because at the end of the day, you're just going to be pouring into him, and you are emptying out of yourself. Who's pouring it back into you? So it has to be like a back and forth thing. You pour into him, and whatever he's doing, it comes back to both of you together as a unit. Yeah. And that's how it works.
That's it.
Otherwise, you're going to be only fulfilling his selfish desires, and it has nothing to do with the relationship. It's very common here where women want men with money, or when men get their salary, they should give them. But at the end of the day, what they're doing with the salary is nothing to contribute back to the household. It's either they're here or go back. You know what I'm saying? So if you're pouring into a person, it has to be functional back to the family unit. Yep.
That's exactly.
You get what I'm saying?
I got it fully. Completely got the whole dynamic. I think the problem is just he doesn't understand that part, and it goes back to one's ability to think outside of themselves. And we talked about self-reflection and that the consequences of having the lack of a father, right? Because you learn about those relationship standards by what you see in your home.
Right. Because with mother, to tell you the truth, man, that man is something else, you know. I mean, it wasn't with my mother though, but when I go to visit my brothers on weekends as a child, you know, what I was seeing there was terrible. And you know, all my brothers, all his sons, and even the daughters, they don't deal with him. And I can understand. No, he's in his age, he's almost 60, and well, he has a woman now, but you know what I mean, he's pretty much by himself. None of his sons. It's only me and another one of my brothers who did not grow with him. Is feeding back? Is the volume? Is it feeding back?
No, you good. Everything's okay. Great. I'm just listening.
Yeah, what I was saying about him, I saw the way he treated my siblings when I was there on the weekends. You know what I mean? But he didn't treat me that way. And I have another brother that was not living with him either. He didn't treat us. So we are neutral with him now. But as for the ones that grew up under his wings, they don't deal with him, and they send him to hospitals many times. You know what I mean? The youngest one chopped him. The biggest one, when he turned 17, he hit him with a stone. He did many things. I did things with their mother. Even some things he did to her for me, for my sake. You know what I mean? But it was not functional. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, but a person, when you become of age, it's no longer what was done in the past. This is why I said forgiveness is necessary for the next step you're going to make in your life.
Yeah.
You understand? So it doesn't matter what we saw before. We still have that consciousness that is conscious of the experience of what happened too, so we can discern. So it goes back to one's ability, you know, the humility to say, okay, I've seen this has happened and it's not functional, so let me do this instead. Right? But if you're going to blame the fact that, no, my daddy was always doing this, so this is what I'm going to do, or my mom, I saw my mom doing this to no, that's just your choice. In the moment when you were a child and the experience was taking place, you did not have a say. But now that you become of your own age, where just like we all grew up under white Jesus, but when we become of a certain consciousness, we start to say, no, something is wrong with that. You step out of the church, right? So it's the same way. You had a choice. You can choose to be different, but it's that habit. Mm-hmm. We don't want to break from it, or we don't want to deal with the change. We are afraid of changing.
Well, I mean, because it's foreign to us. You know what I'm saying? It's foreign, and it takes some uncomfortability. Yeah. And you got to be willing to sit with it and process through it. And once you've done that, then boom, yeah? Mm-hmm. So I think the comfortable part for me is learning to let go of it and respecting what a person wants in their lives. And that was the thing I had to come to agreement with for myself this week. He chose to be alone. He wants to be alone. So I have to give him what he's asking for.
Yeah, but it should be less about you give him what he's asking for, and it has to be more about what your values and your core principles. Well, I mean,
it's for the sake of peace and serenity, right? Because it's really causing a lot of distress. So in order for me to heal from the process, I have to learn to let go.
Right. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to turn it away from the person and just going back to you as an individual to say, you are not trying to let go of him. You are trying to hold on to your boundaries. It's just a different way to look at the experience rather than saying, giving the power to him. You are keeping the power to yourself to say, guess what? These are my boundaries. I'm not accepting this, that. So guess what? I'm going to hold tighter to my boundaries. It's not you letting go of him. It's you holding tighter. So the more you hold on to your boundaries or your principles, naturally or by default, it's going to cause a disconnection between you and him. But it's just the wording I want you to get. You know, not saying you're letting go of him, but saying you're going to hold on tighter to your boundaries and your principles or your values.
I like that word phrase.
Yeah, we like the internal. We like to take things internal, rather than trying to go out.
External.
We like to keep it in. Right.
I like
So
I like
you
the
keep the
term
power
of
to yourself.
That makes it true, and this is
Right,
something
right.
I've stated previously about choice of words and learning to change certain word phrases so they don't come off bad or attackish or more defensive or hurtful. So I get that completely. Yes.
Right.
Holding
So
on
when
to
you-
principles and standards and acceptance of what I need. Yeah. In our relationship, far as what I have to have in order for it to be productive.
There you go. So it shows you that it's also showing you some differences between belief and faith. For example, when you're dealing with Job and his wife, when the tribulations came upon them, the woman was letting go of the Most High, telling Job to curse the Most High and stuff like that. So it's showing you this was a belief in the sense that when tribulations come, that's when you let go. But Job, on the contrary, he did not have a belief. He had a faith. So the more the tribulations come is the more you hold on to your core values, your principles, your standards, your boundaries. So this is what I was showing you with your own experience. You had faith in your boundaries and your principles. So the more the relationship lashes you, is the tighter you hold on to your boundaries. You understand what I'm saying? Yes. So I was just getting that internal aspect.
It also goes back to, in that essence, her not understanding that which he's produced, the Father, and giving her and being secure with uplifting him through his process, right? And when you tell someone, I'm letting go of you, you're not willing to work with them through the process. Because it's still about working with it as long as you hold your principles about what you need.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's a good one. So you were saying something very interesting earlier about the ability there's something about that father situation. And who was that? Hagar. That one. I need you to take that one back.
Abraham.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was about him standing in his principles, right, as a man, because the woman convinced him something that he shouldn't have done. Yeah.
Right. And that's something we see from time to time always happening. Like the man will know. Matter of fact, before I go to Abraham, I'm just going to give you a personal experience, because it's going to go back to Eve as well. I was sitting at my chicken coop one day, and there was a young man walking with his woman, and she took up a stone and threw at the coop. And then by the time she threw the stone, she looked and she saw me, and she was so frightened, she grabbed onto her man. But the guy, he only smiled. But this is the thing. When you see your woman do something silly or stupid, you have to let them know, you know what I mean, that, hey, this is, but when you laugh, you're entertaining it as if, no, that's okay, you can do it again another time.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So it goes back to with the Abraham situation there, because when you see your woman do something, it's important that don't let her feel right about her wrongs. It goes back to also, you remember the scripture when the woman took the crown off the king's head and boxed him?
Yes, disrespecting
That's
him.
exactly what it is. That's
exactly
what it is.
Yeah.
Because your woman should reverence you so much to know that, okay, she's walking with you and she's going to throw at the coop. She would think twice to do it. You understand? How does this man feel about, how does it affect his image? You know what I mean?
Yes.
You reverence your man so much that you, right? So it's the same thing, with Adam and Eve, or as you say, Abraham. Let's stick with Abraham. He knew in his knowledge, because Adam married within his family, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Abraham told his servant, swear to the Most High that you will not take a daughter of the Canaanites, but go unto our country, our kindred, our family, and take a wife for my son Isaac. So he knew that law that Adam had from the beginning about don't go outside your nation. But when it comes to his woman, he did not keep that principle. He did not keep that moral law, that law. You understand? So we need to stop allowing how we feel about women to intervene with what we should do with the Most High.
Yeah.
You understand? And it simple goes back to even the law where it says, honor thy father and thy mother. Yes, you honor your parents, but you have to honor them in the name of the Most High. So if your parents are preparing pork for dinner, yes, you honor your parents, but you put the Most High before them. You get what I'm saying? So you're not going to eat pork because of the Most High, regardless of what your mother is doing, because it's not about honoring. You're not going to honor our wicked parents.
No.
You honor your parents in the fear of the Most High, in reverence in the Most High. It's the same with your husband. You honor your husband in reverence of the Most High.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So,
or your wife in reverence.
Yeah. Vice versa. Right. Vice versa.
I mean, but see, the story is that she was not in her faith, believing that in her old age she could have another child, and instead of waiting on Yahuwah to do this, she told her husband to take a woman that would have defiled him, because that's pretty much what that is. And not only did it defile him, but it also caused a challenge. And even after the child was born, and then she received her child, she caused even more, because she took a lot of things in her own will, and every point she took it into her own will, there was a consequence. Right? Because of that situation, there was a rift between the Ishmaelites and our tribe. So, like, there were consequences based on actions, right? Because they took it upon themselves to solve situations and problems, instead of consulting with the Father before actions made. It's the same thing about being in a relationship with someone, and you're trying
to go there.
You being in a relationship with someone, and you don't talk out actions, right? Whatever it is that you're trying to do or accomplish for the family purpose, and you take it upon yourself to make these moves without consulting with your mates.
Right. And this is why you see a lot of people don't understand that when you're going to seek a partner, the Most High giving you a partner is one and the same, with the wisdom and principles of the Bible telling you how to go about it. Because what you're talking about with Sarah right now is you're showing a lack of faith and patience. Some of us might have the faith, but some of us lack in the patience, and this is what we need to strengthen. You understand? Because we cannot wait for the Most High to send this man, so we go and take things on our own. Or the Most High says he's going to do this for you, but because you're being impatient, you go and do it on yourself, and now you end up in this mess. You understand? So we still have to have that patience, and that's what it says in the end, the patience and the faith of the saints.
Yes.
We have to have patience with it.
Yeah. This is true.
Right.
It has everything to do with that, and also a lack of respect for the one that you're with when they make actions without consulting you.
Exactly. And this is showing you how important communication is.
Yes.
You understand? Right, because your desire to get something will prompt you into foolish actions.
Yes.
So because of desire, you want to get it done today. When the weatherman come and say, hey, it's going to be heavy rain today and thunderstorms, don't go outside. You wait.
Yeah.
And this is why you see when you deal with patience from a Hebrew standpoint, it's not about waiting for something for 20 minutes or 15 minutes or waiting for someone to get ready. Patience with the Most High, it can take years, because the very same thing Abraham was waiting for, he never saw it. The very same thing he taught Isaac to wait for, Isaac didn't see it.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? That was established all the way down in Jacob, when you get the 12 sons and spread out and all of that. It didn't happen. Abraham didn't see it. You understand? A lot of people didn't see that kingdom or everything that the Most High promised. They did not see the Messiah in their timing. You understand?
This is true.
But by faith, we know that, okay, this would come. And this is why you see a lot of us cannot let go of Babylon or what Babylon has to offer. because we don't have that faith or that patience to know that, guess what, at the end of the day, if all of us stand out to say we're not going to go around with their school systems or their vaccine systems or whatever, guess what, we know that if we are suffering, all of us are suffering together. And this is when we would see the work of the Most High really coming, because of our faith. But because of fear and the contrary, because of fear, we hold on to what Babylon has to offer. So they keep us longer.
Yeah.
You understand?
But it goes back to what he said. He has to purge out the rebels for his sake. And there's a purging coming. Yeah.
Right. Well, we saw that last time. So even after Egypt was destroyed, a lot of people held on to what they learned in Egypt. You understand? So this why the purge had to go on in the wilderness, and it's going to happen again. After America is destroyed, a lot of people will hold on to the traditions of America. They cannot be functional. The laws of the Most High cannot be functional in them because of what is already in their minds. The gods of America, the culture, the everything. And we saw that also with Lot's wife. When Sodom was destroyed, she was looking back. Why were you looking back when you were told to go forward? You understand? It's that condoning. We condoning the culture of America. We condoning the religious system, the education system, their science system. We condone the whole sexual immoralities.
Yeah, we do.
And this is what it was really showing us. You understand?
This is true. This is very, very true.